adverse experiences. So community resources like mental health support and parent education programs are going to play just a big role in fostering that early childhood mental health. And when we think of childhood mental health, in just having equitable access to childcare and early learning, another crucial area for fostering healthy and emotional development. Childcare providers, it would be fantastic that they could be trained and recognize and support the emotional needs of infants and toddlers, and implement programs that promote positive interactions, emotional regulation, social skills that enhance children's readiness for school and for life. And really, when we talk about family violence, it's essential for the well-being of infants and young children that's minimized, and exposure to violence can severely disrupt healthy attachment for development, leading to a range of emotional or behavioral issues. So really just overall, the whole child, treating the whole child and that mental health component of young children, and can just really impact their day-to-day interactions. It's all about those early relationships between caregiver and child. Children spend a lot of their time in care and learning centers and with family. So it's really imperative that we uplift like all of these areas. So we're working together to create like a safer environment, that way they feel safe and understood, and for children to thrive, free from fear and instability, and ultimately benefiting the mental health of the entire family unit.
Mahalo nui, Kat. Thank you for those thoughts and that insight into how important mental health is, even amongst the youngest of our kamali'i. Mahalo for that. And next, I am pleased, literally grinning ear to ear, to be able to introduce this beautiful woman who has worn many hats. I know her as Dean Tochiki. She was at Richardson when I was there. She's also joining us today as the former director of EPIC Ohana to share some insights about the priority area of family violence prevention. Ladies and gentlemen, Lori Tochiki.
Thank you, Amy. I'm the founder and just newly retired executive director of EPIC Ohana. EPIC Ohana is an organization that provides many services for those families that are already in the child welfare system. Perhaps we are best known for Ohana conferencing and for our services for older youth, for former foster youth. We have an organization called High Hopes that Dr. Alameda has helped us with. But most of the children who enter the child welfare system are the young children. The majority of the cases, because they're the most vulnerable. One of the things I've had the honor to do is recently to serve as co-chair of a working group. We're actually still in session. So our working group will report to the legislature in 2025, and it's called Malamo Ohana. And recently we had a community forum on Hawaii Island. Actually, we had two. We had one in Kona and one in Hilo. And so what we wanted to do is to hear the voices of lived experience from those families that have involvement with child welfare services. We wanted to hear, what are the strengths of your community and what are the needs of your community? And a couple of things that really stand out that I want to emphasize today is that, people want accountability. They want a trauma-informed system that really helps people heal. But more than anything, they want prevention. And so here are some of the things we heard on Hawaii Island. We heard, services are hard to get to. If a family has a substance use disorder issue or domestic violence issues, sometimes they have to wait on long waiting lists and come to Oahu for services, especially if it's in treatment that's in-house. We also heard that sometimes people are afraid to ask for help because they're afraid that if they ask for help, that they may end up in the child welfare system. And so that need, we heard that on many, many islands, but perhaps we heard it even more on Hawaii Island. So I do want to lift that up, that the importance of prevention, so that when families are under stress, they can provide what they need for their youngest keiki. And then another thing that we heard over and over again was the need for leadership and the need for collaboration. Often it's not a matter of knowing, excuse me, I'm saying this wrong. Sometimes it's a matter of not even knowing where the resources are. And sometimes it's different resources, different departments, county, state, not knowing how or where those services are for each other. So I think the message, if any, is that we're hearing from the community is the importance of leadership to help with collaboration in order to prevent the adverse effects that come from family violence. Thank you.
Mahalo nui, Lori. Thank you so much for that insight. And last but definitely not least, in terms of our community partners, I'd like to introduce Shan Kanaiapuni, another amazing woman doing great things in our community. She's the president and CEO of Partners in Development Foundation. Shan's going to share a little bit with us about the priority area of childcare and early learning. Aloha ka'awe, Shan.
Hey, aloha, aloha kako. Is it okay if I share my screen? I can, yeah? Okay.
Yes, you
see
should be able
that.
to.
All right, I just have a couple of slides. It's more interesting to look at beautiful keiki. Oh, can you see that? Yes, okay. What can you see? Can you see a little keiki holding a heart? Okay, good. So yeah, so a major priority, of course, is around childcare and early learning, and just emphasizing also the connections that the first two speakers, both Lori and Kat, shared as being critical alongside this particular area of focus for us. And across the state, and I'll share a little story because I think that helps bring it alive, but we have family-child interaction learning programs like Tutu and Me and Kapa'alana on Hawaii Island, Mokuo Keawe, and that deliver high-quality education to more than 34,000 keiki across the state, ages birth to 5. And so it's those youngsters where we really want to emphasize the importance of those early synaptic, those brain connections that are so critical for lifelong learning and a whole range of positive outcomes. And as well as, being able to uplift and empower families to be able to survive and thrive here in Hawaii and empower and strengthen our communities. So I wanted to share, I reached out to 2 of our programs that are on your island, and one of them reached back today with a beautiful little story about a keiki named Liana, who's a two-year-old little one. And she's actually cared for by a private childcare. This isn't her in any of the pictures, but it's just nice pictures. She's being cared for by a private childcare in a low-income community where our Kapa'alana program offers home visits in addition to site-based services, because sometimes people choose not to come to sites. In fact, I think around 50% in a survey that we did in mostly Native Hawaiian communities, 47% of the families said they prefer outside of center-based care for their little ones, especially the young ones. The caregiver in this case is trying to provide childcare at a reasonable cost to parents, and many of these parents are brand new to the workforce and really just trying to survive. And so the caregiver had about 5 kids that she was taking care of and was really struggling with the children, and asked our Kapa'alana team if one of our home visitors could start coming and visiting and spending time with her, so that she could support this early learning need. And so we started services with her, with baby Liana and her 4 peers on May 30th, just a few months ago. And on our first visit, Liana cried and just was really clingy with her childcare provider the whole time. And the childcare provider shared that there had been a lot of trauma at home, and Liana had separation anxiety. She didn't like to interact or engage with other keiki. She was very isolating, didn't want physical contact or to participate in any activities, and really a lot of difficulty expressing herself. And so, unfortunately, this isn't that uncommon in some of the communities that we serve. What happened was that during the weekly visits following that end of May date, that first visit, Kapa'olana was able to build relationship, routine, and started tracking the growth and progress with baby Liana. And at this date, and so I got, down to today's date, she now knows how to interact and engage with others. She can calmly separate herself. She speaks openly. She expresses herself. She can count to 4. She recognizes faces to name and gets involved with activities, welcomes physical contact, gives hugs and honies. She understands the routine of a school and structure and can sit in a circle and loves to dance and sing and paint and read and looks forward to the visits with our Kapa'olana team. And her makua, her parent, shared with the caregiver that she's improved so much that at a recent family gathering, Ohana gathering, Liana walked up to the stage and asked for the mic and started singing. And so that was a real breakthrough, seeing the amount of courage that she had been able to build up. And previous to that, she wouldn't have had the confidence or skill set to freely speak and speak in public with strangers and on a mic. And so we've been able to track progress for Liana alongside all the other keiki that we care for in social emotional gains, cognitive gains, language, separation and transition, math, literacy, story time, art. And that's what these pictures kind of show, the trusting relationships. This is actually Waimanalo, but we are all over the state and teaching children how to learn through culture, through play, and just in creating that inviting place and supporting those really important journey from an early stage. So I'll stop sharing, and mahalo for allowing me the time to share with you today. Aloha.
Mahalo nui, Sean, for those thoughts and for being with us as well. And mahalo to all of you, to Carrie and Peggy, just for the insight overall on Commit to Keiki. And then, of course, our 3 wahine giving us some thoughts and insight on the priority areas of mental health, family violence prevention, and childcare and early learning. I think now we're going to get into kind of what we're all here for, and that's to hear from our candidate this evening. And so it's my pleasure to introduce the candidate. For over 30 years, mayoral candidate Dr. Kimo Alameda has been a leader in community work. Born in Hilo, Dr. Kimo grew up on a ranch in the hills of Waiakeauka. He worked alongside his siblings, making ends meet with his parents' plumbing business, and helped on the family ranch. He graduated from St. Joseph High School and went on to receive his bachelor's degree in psychology from Hawaii Pacific University and a master's degree from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. He also has a doctorate in cultural, educational, and psychological studies from the University of Nebraska. The work ethic from his early years and dedication to education and community led to his success as a state and county leader. He served as the former chief executive officer of Bay Clinic Health Center, which merged with the West Hawaii Community Health Center in 2021 to become Hawaii Island Community Health Center. He was the executive for the Hawaii County Office of Aging from 2015 to 2019, and director of the Office of Health Equity of the Hawaii Department of Health from 2010 to 2015. To run for mayor, Dr. Alameda left his positions as vice president of new business operations at Hawaii Island Community Health Center and lead of the Hawaii Island Fentanyl Task Force to again enter the 2024 race for Hawaii County Mayor. Mahalo nui ya'oi, Kimo, for joining us this evening. And I'd like to just ask you to start out by sharing a few words about your thoughts on early childhood care and the ways that you feel a mayor is in a position to support this important work.
Sure. Well, thank you, Amy and Laurie and Peggy and Sean, Kat, Carrie. You guys are awesome. Thank you for sharing the background information and the 37 participants that are joining with us. So yeah, Kimo Alameda. So this is my passion. I mean, this is what I do. You heard Laurie talk about my work with Epic Ohana. You know, I get called upon to do training for foster families because I understand child development. Of course, I understand mental health. And as a psychologist, we also understand violence in homes because, that kind of is often paired with mental illness. And so, this is right up my alley. This is kind of what I do, and this is what I've been doing my whole life. So, but yeah, you're right. 90% of a child's brain is pretty much developed by age 5. And it's a critical time. And so, and I even like to push the envelope and talk about prenatal development. At the Department of Health, I provided a consultation for our prenatal department because that 9 months is also super critical. And our parents got to be, supported in nutrition. They got to be supported emotionally because, when somebody's under toxic stress, they release cortisol, and that can affect a preborn just as much as any other addictive substance. So there's so much to consider along these lines. So I mean, this is what I went to school for. Just so happened also running for the office of mayor. So I get the edge on this one. But yeah, I think it's critical. At the Department of Health, I worked Department of Health for 15 years. Yeah, so I was a child and adolescent mental health consultant statewide. So I'll go around and I'll train the psychiatrists. I would train the psychologists, social workers, all the family guidance centers on how to work with local families. Because at the time, well, I don't know, 25 years ago, there weren't much local psychologists. And so I was often asked to provide training on how to engage with families, and you're right. This adverse childhood experiences is real. Trauma is real. Trauma-informed care is critical. And as I just cannot help but consider that as a mayor, as a leader, because it's just in my DNA. So I think it's critical. I don't know where the state's role end and where the county's role begin. That's always an issue, jurisdiction. The state, again, I worked for Child Mental Health Division, then I worked for Adult Mental Health Division, and then I was I oversaw the Office of Health Equity, right, looking at disparities in healthcare and education even. So yeah, the government definitely has a role to play, and if that statistic is true, 77% of all voters going elect or going, pretty much choose to, vote for the person who prioritizes early childhood education, then I might have just won this election.
Mahalo, nui, Dr. Kimo, for those opening thoughts. Appreciate that. And your recitation, of course, of your commitment to the care of our keiki. So we have probably a good 30 minutes still ahead of us. We have some questions that we've already prepared. And I also want to remind all of those who have joined and who are watching on, our attendees, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A box that's at the bottom of your screen. And we're going to try to take some of those questions as well after we get through the ones that Commit to Keiki have prepared. So Kimo, you touched upon some things that have to do with the counties, Kuleana. You talked about the overlap perhaps between the state and the county. And so maybe we can start right there. Currently, there's an early childhood coordinator that's part of the county government. This position is funded through ARPA funds, which is going to end in 2027. What steps do you plan to take to ensure that this position could be permanent?
Yeah, from my understanding, because I know Angela Thomas, right? I mean, like I said, I was invited to do training and at conferences, and so this is right up my alley. So yeah, I mean, from my understanding, there was $14 million assigned to this program, to this department, and then it got shaved off to $9 million, and from last I checked, it's $4 million. So obviously, the current administration does not value early childhood development, as evidenced by where they put in the dollars. So, to me, if $14 million was assigned to this department, and then it should stay with this department. So, the unfortunate thing about me is I'm not in office, so I have no idea where the dollars went. I don't know why it was shifted. And so that's my first order of business, is to get in there and to do kind of like an informal audit of all the departments, because on other matters too, another debate was hazard pay, that was promised. It's in the contract. That's a chunk of change according to current administration. That's $70 million. And then we get the Kilkaha Wastewater Treatment Center, according to the current administration, could be as high as 400 million, maybe $700 million. And then, salary and wages is already 70% of the budget. So if 14 million was itemized for this department, then it should stay there. And I can't wait to get in and find out where it is. Thank you.
Well, I'm just gonna drill down into that a little bit more, acknowledging your thoughts about trying to dig in and find out where the money that was previously allocated went. But again, given that the funding source, the source of those funds will eventually come to an end regardless, do you have thoughts on things that could be done in order to ensure the sustainability of a position related to early childhood care?
Yeah, let me make sure I can find you again. I just lost you somewhere. Oh, there. Okay, found you again. All right. So one more time, you said that if well, what am I willing to do to search for it or make sure it's still there, or
So you're acknowledging what you had shared about trying to determine what happened with the decrease in funding. The source of that funding, regardless, is going to come to an end because it's ARPA funding. Do you have thoughts on how the county might be able to sustain that even beyond the end of the ARPA funding?
Yeah. So what's interesting is I worked in 3 branches of government, yeah. So they always talk about, whenever you get funding from the feds, they say, hey, you gotta, we're gonna give you this seed money and you gotta find a way to sustain it. So the feds' definition of sustaining it is let the state pay for them. And then so this is how the thing works, you guys. Okay, I've been around. So then they went, because at the state level, we give money to the counties, right? I worked at the state, I was a part of this, right? And we tell the counties, hey, we're gonna give you guys this money, some pass through, we're gonna give them for 5 years, but then you gotta find a way to sustain it. Okay, so then the state expect the county for sustain them. So the feds expect the state, so it's just like downhill, right? And then when the county get the money, right, then we get the money, county, right? And then they kind of partner with a nonprofit or something, and they say, hey, nonprofit, we're gonna give you this money, it's gonna be on pass through, but you gotta find a way for sustain them. So everybody's just passing the buck, right? And that's my experience now 30 years in government. I can tell you, nobody accept accountability. And so what we gotta do, and we gotta say, hey, you keep just pushing this down the road, expecting nobody accept accountability for sustain the funds, right? So we gotta, if we're really serious about ensuring that our children are, getting good head start into kindergarten, and even before that, get in prenatal, like I said, then we gotta lock in those funds like we would for our roads, our beaches, our gyms, and we got to make noise to the state because the county's picking up on where the state left off, and the state not leaving us off on a really good note. So Mayor Roth, which is if I get elected, I'm gonna be a major champion for this. And if Josh Green's in office, he's gonna hear it from me because we need help. And if the child adolescent mental health division, with all the funds they're getting, cannot help prepare our kids on the mental health side, and if the Department of Education or cannot help prepare our kids on the preschool side, and if the the violent domestic violent programs cannot, then maybe give us a share of that funds and let the county run it. So that's kind of how I'm going to be looking at it. I cannot make any promises because I don't know where the money's at. I don't know if I can, because the budget's going to be a big issue, but you can count on me as your advocate.
Mahalo. I think one of that kind of bridges into coming from funding. I'm going to walk right into policy. Do you have any specific policies or any specific policy direction that you might propose to support early childhood mental health initiatives, particularly in relation to childcare settings?
Yeah, so we need help, right? If only 26% of all childcare needs are being provided for, so you get 75% of kids that are not going to any school, right? They're just being plopped right into kindergarten. Of course, they're not ready. So that's why you get statistics like, by 3rd grade, 1/3 is not even at reading, at the reading level they should be at. So if we get 75% of kids out there might not be ready, then we gotta support the tutu and me's and the daycares, you know, that pop up licensure. We gotta be once you gotta streamline licensure. You know, I mean, we gotta partner with the community big time. So one of the policies, well, first, I don't know if I would even put child and early childhood development under research and development. You know, it's like maybe I would reorg them. Maybe I would put them under like Office of Aging or kind of something where you get from, you know, because Office of Aging is like kupuna, but then maybe we get from womb to tomb, maybe. You know, maybe that make more sense. Whereas everybody's because because research and development almost like no fit. You know, it's like, hey, this is a caring program. This is an outreach program. This is a like how you love the kupuna program. This is love the keki program. You know, so why is it in a mundane department? You know? So I think the director gotta be around people who love people, you know, around social workers and outreach workers, and you know that to help that person feel connected. So yeah, I got all kind of thoughts about this program, and so in terms of policies, I'm not real sure yet. You know, but I know that we got to partner better, and I know that this is a mismatch. I think in the county, I'd like to see what other counties are doing, and where they put this department, and how they you know, collaborate with the state and the Fed. So
Mahalo. You know, I think you kind of talked, maybe perhaps spoke a little bit about the importance of partnerships, but in the community. And so I just wanted to delve into that in terms of any plans or thoughts that you might have for engaging community or getting firsthand input from communities about early childhood issues that are in need of attention.
Well, you know, you're talking to somebody who's been doing this all my life, so it's almost like, you know, I mean, I've been doing this already, so this is my circle. So, you know, what am I going to do to reach out to get a better understanding of early childhood issues? I've done this all my life, so I know that there are developmental milestones that gotta be met. You know, I know that at 2 years old, at least a child should speak at least 50 words in the vocabulary. I know that you know, they gotta learn to acknowledge their emotions so that they can start to regulate it. You know, I know about fine motor, gross motor skills. I mean, you know, so I understand the developmental milestones. And I know that a lot of it are not met. So I mean, you know, so I just got to continue to do what I do. And I mean, the conference that y'all had on the Big Island, that was good. You know, I was asked to participate in that pre-COVID, and I attended a couple. So, you know, we got to make sure that that annual conference continues, because that's, you know, the meeting of the minds, right? And you got Sylvia Luke to talk a little bit as well, so you get some political buy-in there. So yeah, I mean, I think we got to keep the conference, the annual conference. We got to, you know, we got to empower this department. I mean, I don't know if Angela Thomas is on staff. I'm not sure. I'd like to ask. And then, you know, does she feel supported? Is she part of the cabinet? If not, can she be invited every once in a while? You know, can we raise the bar on like, if we're going to say this on priority, then can we raise it up on the org chart? You know, like it's all of that, right? And so. And I just want to say this too. Another statistic popped up in my head. You know, for every dollar we spend on early childhood development, you know, mental health, cognitive health, and in the family, we save $6. Yeah, so we got to educate legislators as well on that, and funding, you know, from the federal level. I mean, if our country really values early childhood education, then they should put the money where their mouth is and channel some funds down from the feds to the state and then to the county.
Mahalo. Here's another question that has to do, I think, with some of the things that you're talking about as it relates to the financial resources that are available. And this question has to do with any plans or thoughts that you might have to increase access to affordable childcare options in our community. And of course, especially for those families of limited income. So any thoughts that you have about increasing access to affordable childcare?
Yeah. So my daughter, interestingly, because you see another Dr. Kimo Alameda on there, she's using my other link in. So She's a school teacher. Well, my wife was a school teacher. I was a school teacher too. I taught. I was a school counselor, special education teacher. Then I went in to become a psychologist. But she taught a kid of. She had 30 in her class, elementary school, and this is why she's turning her attention to being to having a learning center. Preferably at our home. I also have a grandson, and it's because she noticed that these kids are in the third grade and they're so behind, cognitively, emotionally. She spent most of her time providing counseling, and they come with family issues, they come with anxieties. So I'd like to support people who in the community, educators, people, if we get some kind of criteria to open up learning centers, you know and if we can help that, if we can encourage more of these learning centers and engage the community and then support the tutus and me's and even preschools. I mean, if we can find out how we can enhance our preschool programs. We already got Sylvia and Luke on board, so maybe tuition subsidies, right? I mean, work with Department of Health, because man, it's a lot of stress for a parent, right? To be trying to figure out, not everybody's lucky like my daughter, right? So not everybody get the psychologist husband, and I mean, and I mean, father and all of that, and like so. So how are we going to support these single moms or these parents, that might be by themselves, and preschool's the best place for them. So if we can offset the tuition, that'll be one thing I'll be looking at. Yeah, thank you.
Mahalo. Here's a question I think that's also right down your alley. And this one is, how would you support the hiring of mental health specialists to work directly within early childhood programs?
Yeah. So again, it's right on my alley. So we have a shortage of mental health practitioners. Yeah. So we got to expand the certification. I would engage Kupuna. I would bring in Kupuna. I would bring in, community advocates. We got to create like a brief training program, that can get them feeling comfortable enough to go into our schools and help provide that emotional support, the auntie or the uncle, with some basic skills on listening, being able to identify some symptoms of trauma, and then make them part of our preschool system and even our Department of Education system. Yeah.
Mahalo. I'm going to jump to some of the comments and questions that are coming in from the participants. One of our participants, prior to the question being posed, just made the comment that strong families equal strong communities. Financially stable individuals and families are less prone to the stressors that often lead to violence and the risk factors that come from being in poverty, and they strengthen the overall economy. As mayor, how will you create a countywide infrastructure that supports a vibrant, productive workforce economy so Big Island families can thrive and succeed, thus lowering the incidences of violence and poverty, which we know has an impact on the youngest of our ohana?
Yeah, so that's true story, right? Strong families equal strong communities, but then also strong communities promote strong families. So it's a reciprocal relationship. Yeah. So we could start at both at either end. So for me, I would, if I become mayor, I would start at the community end. So we got to make sure that the programs that the county can provide, that we provide them really well. Like, the simple things like making sure our fields, parks, gyms are open, making sure they're sanitary, and you go to the bathroom, it's clean. Like if the county does its job to the T, and then families can feel comfortable going to parks, gyms, beaches, fields. That's big, right? Because then coaches can go to parks, fields, gyms, beaches, right? And then parents can have respite while their kids go learn how to play soccer or learn how to paddle canoe, with the coaches. So that's within the county's purview. Oh man, it's just so building a strong family, I mean, I would support the churches. I mean, you got to support the churches too, because that's where families go. And if the interfaith community can be more connected to the county, and not just one religion, right? Can't just be Christian. Plenty of people believe in different beliefs, so you gotta include the Buddhist and Hindu and Native Hawaiian beliefs. So you gotta be more open. Current administration, I think, might be stuck on one worldview. So partnering with the interfaith community is key too, because that's where families go. So and many times these institutions, these cultural or religious institutions, they help strengthen the family. Because families needs community, and what I worry about the most actually is the families in isolation. So we would target families in isolation, okay? Because that's where abuse can occur. At the Hawaiian side, like we lost the ohana concept, right? So when you get grandma and grandpa and you get cousins and uncles, aunties, they help provide that support too. But many of these families don't have that. So as a mayor, I'll be also looking at it with that lens as well.
Nice. This is coming back, I think, to a specific question that has to do with access. I believe access to preschools in particular. And maybe at the root of this question is going back to your thoughts on what the county's role specifically is. You talked about the nexus between the kuleana of the federal government, state government, and of course the county and community partners. This specific question is, how will you help open more preschools in Hilo? The participant is also suggesting that a visit to schools in Hilo will make evident what the challenges are with teachers and space, but do you have specific thoughts about how to increase literally the number of seats that are available for preschools in Hilo and on Hawaii Island overall?
Again, yeah, so you're dabbling in jurisdiction issues. So if the state did their job, this wouldn't be on question, right? But now, just like the veterans, this is had a veterans debate. If the feds did their job with our veterans, the vets on our island wouldn't feel the need for reach out to the county. So it's like, because schools, it's like in my mind, it's just like on state issue. But because the state has fell short somehow, by not providing universal education or even preschool as like if it was kindergarten, now you guys look into the county for do that. So the only way I can think right now, because I'm not privy to the budget, right, is to partner with the religious institutions and to look at kind of do an inventory of what's already out there, and then figure out how we can work with them to expand their seats, right? Because in the next 4 years, if you're asking me for building a big preschool in East Hawaii and West Hawaii and North and South, they're not gonna be finished within the next 4 years. Because the mayor, I mean, you're talking about only one person out of 10 that gets to make this decision, right? So the other question's got to be, Kimo, what is your relationship with the county council, right? Because all of these questions, the mayor no get the final say. You know what I mean? So it's, you got to present this to the county council. You got to have political will. You got to, they got to be convinced, just as I am, that early childhood matters, because that's how you get things passed. So, but in my seat, I would say we bring the county council together, and I would say, hey, here's some of the stats, right? We have a program already in research and development. It's not being supported right now. It wasn't supported in the prior administration. They went from 14 million, they said that they're gonna get, they went to 9, now they stay at 4. Obviously, that's not a priority. Okay, so can we get your guys support, county council, right, in helping me to work with the preschool programs? Because if only 25% of the kids get in preschool, we know that 75% kids is not in a good position for school. Can we bring in these preschool programs, offer subsidies? If we can offer subsidies, can we work with them to see how we can increase the capacity? Maybe we can offer in-kind space, right? We get a lot of abandoned buildings, places people just vacate. Maybe somebody who's trained just to move someplace for hold their preschool, maybe we can let them have that preschool like right in Hilo. You get so much abandoned. There's the abandoned McDonald's in Hilo that people was talking about. Maybe they're gonna use them for preschool. It's still there. So again, it's political will, right? But you gotta make this one priority. And this administration has not made it a priority. So if you don't make them a priority, it's not gonna happen. We'll make it a priority. Thank you.
Mahalo, Kimo, for sharing that. And I think we are about coming near to the end of our time. Thank you so much for what you've shared thus far. Your responses to questions. I'm going to take one more question from the audience. And this is, do you think funding parenting classes is an important part of a healthy community? And if so, what would you and your administration do to support that? Again, the funding of parenting classes.
Yeah, so it's funding, right? So I was the parent trainer for Epic Ohana. You know, I have a program that's called A+ for parents, acceptance, praise, you know, good listening, and I would share specific strategies and such. So you know, I think people remember. So I did them for parents, and I did it for Kupuna, and for Kupuna, the title was Off Your Rockers. Yeah, because it's kind of like a double play on words, because you know, plenty of our parents incarcerated, well, not plenty, but the ones that need our help incarcerated, or they get addiction issues, they're struggling. So many times the kupuna, right, gotta raise their grandchildren, and the kupuna, they old school, so you know, they gotta be kind of brought up to date on childhood parenting practices that's not gonna land them in CPS. So you know, I mean, so we got to support those programs. I provided it. If there's somebody in the community that can provide it, I'm sure we can work with the county council for contingency funds. I mean, it doesn't take much to make that happen in both west, north, south, and east Hawaii. We gotta always be cognizant of the west side and the north and the south side. Our services tend to be Hilo-centric, and I'm very cognizant of that, because children reside on the Big Island everywhere, not just in Hilo.
Right.
Okay, so. But yeah, for sure. I mean, definitely. It's all important stuff right there.
Mahalo nui. I also, before I ask you, Kimo, to just share any closing thoughts, just want to mahalo again all the participants for submitting your questions, your comments. There was a lot of input regarding access to more seats, more care, more preschool seats. There were a couple of comments about what you referenced, the ARPA funds, the current ECE coordinator situation within the county. Couple of our participants emphasized the need perhaps to take a look, you know, for you as you continue your campaigning, to visit some of the early childhood centers and some of the preschools to just kind of get a more intimate view and some insight as to what's happening, what some of the, not only the challenges, but the successes are as well that can be capitalized on. And so mahalo again to all of you who shared those thoughts and passed on your questions. And so with that, Dr. Kimo, just wanted to ask you if you have any closing thoughts, Mana'o, that you'd like to share about our early childhood education programming and the importance of that on the county level here in the county of Hawaii.
Sure. First, I'd like to thank you, Amy, and all of you. You know, I'm sure we connected, and now we're reconnecting in a different capacity. So thank you for all the work that you folks do. It's super critical. Like I said, you know, funding, we gotta prioritize, right? For every dollar spent, we save $6 in the long run. Adverse childhood experiences are real, and that's not something that made up. A lot of our kids grew up in trauma. You know, they grew up in unsafe environments, untrusting environments, and such. So definitely, yes. So thank you for all the work that you guys do. I also like to give a shout out to Angela Thomas. I don't know if she's on, but you know, that REACH program that provided books, you know, 7,500 books to pediatricians, so that they can, you know, give out to parents and kind of increase literacy is critical too. So those are the kind of programs that the county can support, should support. And the thing is, you know, I got to get elected, or else all this is in vain. Well, not really, because I'll just go back and provide services like I did before. But I can make a bigger impact, I think, at this leadership level. So please let your friends know, go vote. Vote for a mayor that prioritizes early childhood development, and put their money where their mouth is. So that's what I'm all about. You guys know me from before, and and I can't wait to. I hope and pray that whatever happens or however the results go, I'll still continue to provide services for our beautiful, beautiful island. So thank you, everybody.
Mahalo ho yaoi, Dr. Kimo Alameda. Thank you for your time this evening. And before we close, I just wanted to turn it back over to Carrie for some closing thoughts.
Mahalo, Amy, and mahalo, Dr. Kimo, for sharing your mana'o on early childhood development and how we support both our youngest keiki and their families. I just want to emphasize your perspective on the well-rounded perspective of early childhood development and speaking to family violence prevention, early childhood mental health, and early education, and how critical all three of those are. So with that, mahalo nui for sharing your time with us today. We appreciate how incredibly busy you are during this campaign season, and best wishes for the rest of your campaign.
Mahalo nui, everyone. And with that, that's going to close out our session. We'll be back probably in about 30 minutes with our next candidate.
Thank you, everybody.
Aloha.